She stood in a wedding dress meant for a monster, looked at the man with the gun, and whispered the 3 words that would either save her life or end it. Marry me instead. There are moments when you have to choose between the life you're forced into and the one you're willing to die for. This is the story of a woman who made that choice in front of 200 witnesses, a loaded church, and the most dangerous man in 3 territories. Welcome, and let us know in the comments where you're watching this story from. Your 1 subscription motivates us to bring you more stories like this. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Her name was Elena Rose Cabrera. 22 years old, daughter of Miguel Cabrera, the wealthiest cattle baron in southern Arizona Territory. And on a bright Sunday morning in September 1878, she was about to marry the man she feared most in the world. His name was Vincent Kane. 38 years old, they called him the Scorpion. Not because he was quick, though he was. Not because he was deadly, though he'd killed 17 men that anyone could prove. They called him that because once Vincent Kane decided you were his, you never got away. You could run to California, to Texas, to Mexico. Didn't matter. He'd find you. And when he did, you'd wish you'd never been born. Vincent owned half the territory through blood and terror, cattle rustling, land theft, protection rackets, murder for hire. The law couldn't touch him. Judges feared him. Sheriffs looked the other way. And anyone who stood against him disappeared. 3 months ago, he decided he wanted a wife. Not just any wife, he wanted legitimacy. Respectability, a beautiful woman from a good family to stand beside him and make people forget what he really was. He wanted Elena. Miguel Cabrera had said no at first. His daughter was not for sale. Not to a man like Vincent Kane. Not to anyone she didn't choose. That was before Vincent's men burned Miguel's northern pasture. 300 acres, 2 years of grazing land, gone in one night. That was before they killed his foreman. Shot him in front of his wife and children. Left the body on Miguel's porch with a note, "The next one's your daughter." That was before Vincent came to the ranch himself, sat across from Miguel in his own parlor, and said with a smile, "I'm a patient man, Miguel. But my patience has a price. Give me Elena, and your family lives. Refuse, and I'll bury every Cabrera in the territory." Miguel was 63 years old. He'd fought Apaches, drought, disease, and corrupt land agents. He'd built an empire from nothing, but he'd never faced a man like Vincent Kane. He looked at his daughter, his only child, the girl he'd raised alone after her mother died, the daughter who read books in 3 languages, who could ride better than his best vaqueros, who had her mother's eyes and her father's stubborn heart, and he broke. "Yes," Miguel whispered. "You can marry her." Elena was in the room. She heard him. She stood up from her chair, looked at her father, and said one word. "No, Elena, I won't do it, Papa. I won't marry him." Miguel's eyes filled with tears. "If you don't, he'll kill us all. Then we fight him. We can't win. Then we die free." But Miguel couldn't let her die. He was her father, and fathers protect their children, even if it means breaking their hearts. He agreed to the marriage, signed the papers, set the date. September 15th, St. Catherine's Church in Sonora. Elena stopped speaking to him that day, moved into the guest room, ate her meals alone. When Miguel tried to explain, tried to apologize, she turned her back and walked away. But she didn't run, didn't try to escape, because Vincent had made it clear if she ran, her father would pay. Not just her father, every worker on the ranch, every family that depended on Cabrera land for survival. She was trapped. And the trap was closing. The wedding was planned like a funeral. Elena had no say in the dress, the flowers, the guests. Vincent handled everything. He wanted it perfect, wanted it grand, wanted everyone in the territory to see that even the proud Cabreras bowed to Vincent Kane. 200 invitations went out. Nobody refused. To refuse was to make an enemy, and nobody wanted Vincent Kane as an enemy. The only thing Elena chose was her silence. She didn't speak to Vincent, didn't look at him during the planning meetings, didn't acknowledge his existence. Vincent didn't mind. He liked the challenge. "You'll warm to me eventually," he said once, touching her cheek. "They all do." Elena slapped his hand away. He laughed. 3 days before the wedding, a new man appeared at the Kane Ranch. Vincent owned a sprawling property 15 miles outside Sonora, fortified like a small army base. High walls, armed guards. It's where he ran his empire. The new man was a cowboy, drifter type. Showed up asking for work. Said his name was Cole Hendricks, 30 years old. Tall, lean, with dark hair and quiet gray eyes that didn't miss much. He wore a gun like he knew how to use it, and he didn't talk more than necessary. Vincent's foreman hired him on the spot. They always needed men who could shoot, ride, and follow orders without asking questions. Cole was good at all three. He worked the ranch for 3 days. Fixed fences, broke horses, kept his head down. But he was watching, always watching. On the second day, he saw Elena. She'd come to the ranch with her father for a final wedding meeting. Cole was in the corral working a stubborn mare when the carriage arrived. He looked up and saw her step down. She wore a simple riding dress, dusty blue, her dark hair pulled back in a braid. She was beautiful. That was obvious. But it wasn't her beauty that made Cole stop and stare. It was her eyes. They were the eyes of someone in a cage. Someone who'd given up fighting but hadn't given up hating. Their eyes met for just a second. Then she turned and walked into the house. Cole went back to work. But he couldn't stop thinking about her. That night, in the bunkhouse, he asked one of the other ranch hands, "Who's the girl?" "That's Elena Cabrera. Boss is marrying her Sunday." "She want to marry him?" The ranch hand laughed. "Hell no. But her daddy's got no choice. Kane threatened to burn them out, so she's doing it to save her family." "She know what kind of man Kane is?" "Everyone knows what kind of man Kane is. That's why nobody stops him." Cole said nothing, but his jaw tightened. The wedding day came. St. Catherine's Church was built in 1802 by Spanish missionaries. Stone walls, wooden pews, a bell tower that could be heard for 5 miles. It was the most beautiful church in the territory. And today, it was packed. 200 guests filled every seat. Ranchers, businessmen, politicians, everyone who mattered. Everyone who feared Vincent Kane enough to celebrate his victory. At the front of the church, Vincent stood in a black suit, smiling. His men lined the walls, armed, watching, making sure nobody got any ideas. In the back room, Elena stood in front of a mirror, wearing a wedding dress she hated, white lace, pearls, a veil that felt like a burial shroud. Her father stood behind her, his face gray with guilt. "Mija, I'm so sorry." Elena didn't answer. She was looking at herself in the mirror, looking at the stranger she'd become. A knock at the door. Vincent's voice. "It's time, my love." Elena closed her eyes, took a breath, and made a decision. She opened the door. Vincent stood there, smiling that cold smile. Behind him, 6 of his men, and behind them, Cole Hendricks. Cole was there because Vincent wanted his whole crew present. Wanted everyone to see his power. Cole stood in the back, hat in hand, watching. When Elena stepped out, her eyes found Cole's, just for a second. And in that second, something passed between them. Not words, not promises, just recognition. 2 people in cages, looking at each other through the bars. The church bells rang. The organ began to play. Miguel took Elena's arm. She led him. They walked down the aisle. Every eye in the church watched her, pitied her. But nobody moved. Vincent waited at the altar, priest beside him, ring in his pocket, victory on his face. Elena walked closer, closer, her heart pounding, her mind screaming, 10 feet away, 5. She stopped. Vincent frowned. Elena? She turned. Looked back down the aisle, looked at the 200 witnesses, looked at her father, looked at Vincent's armed men. Then she looked at Cole. He stood against the back wall, still. Quiet. But his eyes were on her. And in those eyes, she saw something she hadn't seen in months, a choice. Elena let go of her father's arm. She walked past Vincent, walked straight down the center aisle. The church went silent, every breath held. She stopped in front of Cole Hendricks. He looked at her, didn't speak, didn't move. You work for him, Elena said quietly. It wasn't a question. I do, Cole said. Then you know what he is. I know. If I ask you to help me, he'll kill you. Probably. Then why would you? Cole looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time in 3 months, Elena felt like someone was seeing her. Not her name, not her family's money, not her use as a bargaining chip. Her. Because Cole said quietly, a long time ago, I promised myself I'd never stand by and watch a man take something that wasn't his. I broke that promise more times than I can count, but maybe today I don't have to. Elena's eyes filled with tears. She reached out and took his hand. Then she turned to face the church. Faced Vincent, faced her father, faced all of them. I won't marry you, Vincent, she said. Her voice shook but didn't break. I won't give you my name, my family, or my life. And if you try to take them, you'll have to go through them. She looked at Cole. Marry me instead. The church exploded. Vincent's face went white with rage. His men reached for their guns. But Cole was faster. His revolver cleared leather before anyone else moved. He didn't point it at Vincent. He pointed it at the ceiling and fired once. The gunshot echoed like thunder. Everyone froze. Anybody else pulls a gun, Cole said calmly, and this gets real ugly real fast. So let's all take a breath and think about whether dying in a church on a Sunday morning is how you want this day to go. Vincent's men hesitated, looked at their boss. Vincent stared at Cole, stared at Elena. His hands shook with fury. You're a dead man, Hendricks. Maybe, Cole said, but not today. He looked at Elena, offered his hand. You sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything. Cole took her hand, looked at the priest. Father, you able to marry us right now? The priest's eyes went wide. There are procedures, Father, Elena said. Please. The old priest looked at her, looked at Vincent, looked at Miguel, who stood frozen in shock. Then he did something nobody expected. He smiled. Dearly beloved, the priest began, we are gathered here today. Stop. Vincent roared. He stepped forward. His men raised their guns. Cole raised his. One more step, Kane, and I put a bullet between your eyes. You're one man. I have 20. Yeah, but I'm the one with the gun already drawn. Question is, how many of your men die before they get me? You willing to find out? Silence. Vincent's jaw worked. His eyes burned with hate. But he didn't move. Thought so, Cole said. He looked at the priest. Keep going, Father. The priest hesitated. Then continued. Do you, Cole Hendricks, take this woman? I do. And do you, Elena Rose Cabrera? I do, Elena said. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you. Enough. Vincent drew his gun. Cole fired first. The bullet hit Vincent's gun hand. The revolver flew across the church. Vincent screamed, clutching his bleeding hand. Every one of Vincent's men drew their weapons. Cole grabbed Elena, pulled her behind him, and fired twice more. 2 men dropped, wounded, not dead. The rest dove for cover. Chaos erupted. Gunfire, screaming, people scrambling for the exits. Cole shoved Elena toward the side door. Go. Now. Not without you. I'm right behind you. Go. Elena ran. Cole backed toward the door, firing to keep Vincent's men pinned down. They burst out of the church into blinding sunlight. Cole's horse was tied nearby. He'd planned for this, somehow. He'd known. He lifted Elena onto the saddle, swung up behind her, and kicked the horse into a gallop. Behind them, Vincent's men poured out of the church, firing. Bullets kicked up dust. One grazed Cole's shoulder. He didn't slow down. They rode hard, north, away from Sonora, away from the Kane Ranch, away from everything. 3 miles out, Cole finally slowed the horse. Looked back, no pursuit yet. But it would come. Elena was shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline, from freedom. "Where are we going?" she asked. "I don't know," Cole admitted. "Didn't really think past the get you out of the church part." Elena laughed. Actually laughed. "For the first time in months, you just made an enemy of the most dangerous man in Arizona." "Yeah, I noticed. He'll hunt us. Probably. We'll never be safe. Maybe not." She turned in the saddle, looked at him. "Why did you do it?" Cole met her eyes. "Because you asked, and because nobody should have to marry a monster. You don't even know me. I know enough." They rode in silence for a moment. Then Elena said, "We're really married?" "I think so." Priest said the words. "We said I do." "Not sure if it counts when there's gunfire involved, but it counts," Elena said. She took his hand. "Thank you." Cole squeezed her hand, said nothing, just rode. They made it to the border by nightfall. Crossed into New Mexico territory under cover of darkness. Found a small town called Las Cruces. Nobody knew them, nobody cared. They sold Elena's pearl necklace, the only thing of value she had. Used the money to buy supplies, a second horse, and a marriage license. Got married again, legally, with a justice of the peace who didn't ask questions. That night, in a rented room above a cantina, Elena finally asked Cole the question she'd been holding. "Who are you really? You're not just a drifter. You knew how to handle those men. You knew how to shoot. You planned this." Cole sat on the edge of the bed, took off his gun belt, was quiet for a long time. 10 years ago, he finally said, "I worked for a man like Vincent Kane. His name was Jack Reeves. Ran guns and cattle across the Texas border. I was 20. Stupid. Thought working for a dangerous man made me dangerous too." He paused. "There was a girl, younger than you. Her father owed Reeves money, couldn't pay. So Reeves said he'd take the girl instead. She begged me to help her. I was right. I had a gun. I could have stopped it. What did you do? Nothing. I stood there and watched Reeves take her. Told myself it wasn't my fight, that I was just following orders, that it wasn't my place to get involved." His voice cracked. "She killed herself 3 days later, jumped off a cliff rather than stay with him. She was 16 years old. Elena's hand went to her mouth. "I left Reeves that night," Cole said. "Spent the last 10 years trying to outrun what I didn't do. Drifting. Working jobs. Telling myself I'd be better, but every time I had a chance to help someone, I found a reason not to. Too risky. Not my problem. Someone else's fight." He looked at Elena. "Then I saw you. Saw your eyes. Saw that same look that girl had. And I knew if I walked away again, I'd never forgive myself. So I didn't walk away." Elena sat beside him, took his hand. "You saved me." "You saved me," Cole said. "Gave me a chance to be the man I should have been 10 years ago." They sat in silence. Outside, the town settled into night. Music from the cantina below. Laughter. Life going on like it always did. "What do we do now?" Elena asked. "We disappear. Change our names. Find somewhere Vincent can't reach. Maybe California. Maybe Montana. Somewhere far. And if he finds us, then we fight." "I don't know how to fight." Cole smiled. "I'll teach you." They disappeared into the west. Changed their names to Sarah and James Parker. Moved to a mining town in Colorado where nobody asked about your past. Cole worked as a carpenter. Elena taught school. They lived quietly, carefully, always watching for Vincent's men. But Vincent never came. Not because he forgave them. Vincent Kane didn't forgive. But because 3 weeks after the wedding, something unexpected happened. The U.S. Marshal's office in Santa Fe had been building a case against Vincent for 2 years. They had witnesses, evidence, but nobody would testify. Too afraid. Then a package arrived. Unsigned. No return address. Inside, a detailed ledger. Every crime Vincent Kane had committed for 5 years. Every murder. Every theft. Every bribe. Names. Dates. Locations. It had been kept by Vincent's accountant, a man who'd been skimming money and keeping records as insurance. When Vincent discovered the theft, he killed the accountant. But he never found the ledger. Cole had. The night before the wedding, while working the Kane ranch, Cole had broken into the main house. Found the ledger hidden in a wall safe. Copied the most damning pages. Mailed them to the marshal. It was his backup plan. If they escaped, the ledger would keep Vincent busy. Keep him looking over his shoulder instead of hunting them. It worked. Vincent Kane was arrested, tried, and convicted. Hanged in Tucson on a cold December morning. They say he cursed Cole Hendrick's name with his last breath. Cole and Elena heard about it 3 months later. Read it in a newspaper. Sat together on their porch and didn't say a word. They just held hands. Miguel Cabrera tried to find his daughter, hired detectives, sent letters, searched for 2 years. But Sarah and James Parker didn't exist in any record he could find. Finally, he gave up. Went back to his ranch, died 5 years later, alone, wealthy, heartbroken. On his deathbed, he dictated a will, left everything to my daughter Elena, wherever she may be, with a prayer that she forgives an old fool who loved her but failed to trust her strength. The will was published in newspapers across 3 territories. Elena saw it, cried for 3 days, but she didn't go back. Couldn't. The life she'd left was gone. The life she'd built was here. She sold the inheritance. Used the money to build a school. A real school. For girls who had nowhere else to go. Girls running from bad marriages. Girls who needed a second chance. She called it St. Catherine's School, after the church where she'd refused to surrender. Cole helped build it. Taught the girls to shoot, to ride, to defend themselves. Taught them that they didn't need saving, just support. They never had children of their own. But they raised dozens. Girls who came broken and left strong. One of those girls asked Elena once, years later, "Do you regret it? Running away? Losing your family? Your name?" Elena thought about it, looked at Cole across the yard, teaching a 15-year-old how to shoe a horse. Looked at the girls laughing on the porch. Looked at the life they'd built from nothing but a desperate choice and a stranger's courage. "I regret nothing," Elena said. "I lost a name. But I found myself." 40 years later, when Elena died at 62, peacefully, in the bed she'd shared with Cole for 4 decades, she was buried under the name Sarah Parker. But the girls of St. Catherine's School knew the truth. And they told their daughters, and their daughters told theirs. The story of a bride who stood in a church, looked at the man with the gun, and chose freedom over fear. The story of a cowboy who'd spent 10 years running from his past until a woman gave him a reason to stand still. And the story of a marriage that started with a desperate whisper and became a lifetime of chosen love, because sometimes the best marriages aren't the ones planned by fathers and contracts and family expectations. Sometimes the best marriages are the ones you fight for, the ones you risk everything for, the ones that start with 3 words spoken in a moment of pure courage: "Marry me instead."